Welcome to the Challenger Center. Perry Story, who is the Executive Director of the Challenger STEM Learning Center, called in sick this morning. We're used to that these last few days, aren't we? So I'm welcoming you in his stead. How many of you have never been to the Challenger Center before? About 4? Well, that's what this is. It's one of many around the world that celebrates our adventures into space. Take some time, walk around after lunch and get a feel for it. They're busy year-round with busloads of kids who come in and experience the adventures of space in every kind of way. They have all kinds of activities that they, and you can pick up brochures at the front desk and find out just what space, yeah, they have space camps, that's what they call it. I don't know how you have a camp in a building, but they do.
Simulations, they do simulations.
Simulations, yes. All right. We're here today. In fact, it was a little concerning because what is today relative to Latino? What is
my
it?
birthday.
Oh.
It's not
Right there.
What?
We without immigrants.
The Day Without Immigrants.
Or la huelga.
Should we leave? I mean.
No, we're afraid you might not show up because what do we have in schools?
Hundreds and hundreds of students out there.
Which is really interesting. Does anybody know where that started in the country? Where the catalyst for this day, this celebration?
It's national initiative, and I didn't really expect it to happen in Chattanooga, especially with the kids. They need to be in school, and we all work so hard. We're Christian here. We're trying to preach to them, stay in school, but I guess they just want to show us how it looks without. Teachers may enjoy it, just kind of free.
Yeah, they might. That's what several schools, when I told Dr. Tucker before we started, I really anticipated it more in the secondary schools, not really the elementary as much, and at our elementary school with the largest numbers, we had 240 students out. 240 language learners, not just, and there were other students that were out sick and things, so that's significant for an elementary school. I was not anticipating that.
Well, and neither did we intentionally set this date
Yeah.
that way. So, just so you know, this was one of those accidents that happen in history that sometimes ends up being meaningful. All right, this is the way things are going to go. We're going to have a short speech, presentation, call it whatever we like, and Dr. Delaney will introduce the speaker. And then we're going to eat, and you're going to visit around certain questions that you've already seen in the invitation. But first of all, we have a question. We have an assignment for you. Before we can do anything, before you can listen to the speaker, before we can eat, or before you can do anything, you have to pick up the 3x5 card on your table. Any one of them, doesn't matter. And on that card, we'd like for you to write a question that you come here with. Any question about the subject of, what is the title of our lunch today? Latino post-secondary training and workforce development. What question or questions, it doesn't have to be just one, do you have in mind that you need or would like to have an answer to before we even start? We'd like to have that, and then we will pick those up shortly. But before we start, that's assignment number 1. There will be 3 assignments before you're finished. This is a learning experience.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to see everybody here. Thank you all. It's going to be a good conversation, and what Dr. Tucker wants, I know, and the students and the colleagues are involved with this is a launching pad. The conversations that should get started, the relationships and connections that are built, go on. And so what happens this morning is we go through the lunch period together in our conversation, and exchange of ideas, is really to prompt those types of conversations and discussions. That's the exciting part, and I know that Jim, that's what he wants to see happen with this as well. I'm very pleased to welcome a colleague to campus whom we met just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We had exchanged back and forth, and Quincy Jenkins, who will speak to us and kind of help frame some of the conversations today, is a colleague that has a great story, and I hope you have the chance. I'm not going to tell you the story because it's his story. He needs to share that story with you. When you talk about those who make a difference, it is very clear. A couple of us went down, we visited Dalton State, which it's amazing what the state line does to separate people, resources, communities, and maybe we can do something about that as we carry on the discussions today. Quincy brings a background of care, passion, education, and a huge commitment to making lives better. And that's what he brings to the table. It was very clear from the brief period we spent a couple of hours, and Quincy and his colleagues were awfully gracious to host us down there. Ann and Renee and I got a chance to run down there and visit. And it was very clear two things. He loves students, and the students with whom he works love him. And you don't fake it with students. You just can't. So Quincy brings to his role, he's in his 5th year, and his formal title is Director of Office of Hispanic and Latino Outreach at Dalton State College. A number of years ago, if you've been tracking this, Dalton State made the decision, because that's what it is, it's a very clear decision, to commit resources and invest in doing something that had not happened before, which was moving the college in the direction of being a Hispanic service institution. And Quincy will tell you, he has been leading that role, but it's not just him. This is an institutional commitment from the very top. It ripples across the campus in really, really good ways. And I think Quincy will give you a frame it by the Dalton community and what they have seen over the last couple of years, and how Dalton State has moved and reshaped itself in ways that both support but also capture some people and help families, not just students, but help families with their dreams. So Quincy is just, again, a really interesting man, fluent in 4 languages. He can play with the 5th. So he brings to this arena, as I said, a great deal of care and passion. He has worked in 2 previous institutions, has also worked with some community programs and projects in Tampa, has been in Illinois, I think was one. And so I have the resume, but I'm not going to read the resume to you. But I think what you will get, even from just a brief presentation, is how hard this colleague works to make a difference. And people around him speak incredibly highly of the power that he brings to this role and the support that he gets from his institution and his community, and he loves it. I mean, every time a student crosses that finish line, I think, in addition to the family being so happy, I think Quincy's probably just right there as happy as any of them about that. He's also equally as happy when they get to the starting line, which for many students and families is an amazing journey even to get to that point. So I'm going to let Quincy share the story, and let him share with you what Dalton State has tried to do, not just as a campus, but as a central part of the Dalton community, and how they are affecting lives in huge ways as a resource within their communities. Quincy, hey, I hope I haven't taken too much.
No,
when you were talking, so shoot my
Well, I'm Quincy Jenkins, so Johnson, thank you for having me here. I'm the Director of Hispanic and Latino Outreach at Dalton State College. My personal story, my mother's from Cuba, but I'm born and raised in Atlanta. So I'm a Georgia boy, Cuban Georgia boy. And so I fell into this position, well, came to this position about 3 years ago, on full-time on campus. And Dalton State College is what we're calling an emerging HSI, which means that to have a federal designation of being a Hispanic serving institution, you have to have an on-campus population of self-identifying full-time Hispanic students of 25%. Right now we're 24.3%. We think we're a little more, but that's our official number. So we have about 38 students left to go to reach the magic number. And then we apply for eligibility to become a Hispanic serving institution. That's important because it will open us up for federal funding. Right now, we're a member of HACU, which is the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. We're the only one in Georgia. And right now, Georgia has 2 emerging HSIs. We're the closest. The next one under us is Georgia Gwinnett College in Gwinnett County. And they're around 19.2%, I think, so they're right on our heels. Back in about 10 years ago, the population of Hispanic and Latino students on Dauphin State College's campus was about 14%. Before that was 2%. And so you can see the growth. The elementary school system in the city of Dauphin is now 52% Hispanic. And so that's coming up through the tracks. So Dauphin City Schools is 52% Hispanic at the elementary school system. Obviously, we want those students to come to college, they go to high school, but we lose them along the way. Most of our students are first generation college students, and that's just across the board for our institution. We're a small 4-year state school. Most of our students are need-based, they're financial aid. And for our Hispanic and Latino students, we're the first ones in their family to not even go to college, but also to graduate high school. We have a program on campus called Las Comunidades Unidas that I instituted about 2 years ago with the help of a grant from our Board of Regents. And so for this program, we have it twice a night. It's all done in Spanish. I have 3 students work in my office called embajadores, which just means ambassadors, if you can read my handwriting, in Spanish. And so it's student-led. They teach the parents FAFSA, how to do the FAFSA. We have nightly workshop with the bursar's office, scholarship information. We talk about, DACA is always a big one, especially right now. And sometimes we just have venting sessions so the parents can ask questions. Because a lot of parents in the community don't have confianza, it's like a trust issue with the school, so we're trying to bridge that a lot. We have the parents come in on a Saturday once a month, and it's called open house. They can discuss what they want to. We try to provide the answers. We try to anticipate what they're going to ask. We're going to have people that are answering the questions for us. But most of the issues that we have in those workshops have to do with financial aid, which is normal, and immigration status, which is what we have a little control over. In Georgia, and let me know if I go over it. In Georgia, if you're undocumented, if you're part of the DACA program, there are 5 institutions that you just can't go to. You're barred from. So it's Georgia State, Georgia Tech, UGA, Augusta State, and Georgia Regents. Okay, you just can't go to those institutions. Other institutions in Georgia, if you're undocumented, you can attend, but you have to pay out-of-state tuition, and you're not eligible for federal funding. So we have students on our campus who are 17, 18 years old, and they're working 40 hours a week just to pay for one class. And so that shows you the commitment about that our students bring to the table. And they finish. It takes a lot longer, but each semester we're always looking for more funding. I'm always looking for more scholarships. I'm always in the community begging for money, which I don't mind. But I want to make sure that our students achieve their dream of getting an education. Our parent program, you can see our website. We're almost done translating our website in Spanish, thankfully. So if you go to the Dauphin State homepage, on the tab it says resources for. Click under that, it says La Comunidad Hispanohablante. Click on that link and you'll see all the resources that we have in Spanish for our parents, if you're interested. It'd be nice to get some feedback for those who speak Spanish to see what you think about it, because on our campus we only have, even though we have a large Hispanic population, we only have 5 or 6 staff who are Hispanic or Latino. So our staff makeup doesn't really match the student population. Also, we have LASO, which is a Latin American student organization, and they do a lot of efforts right now. They have 250 members, so they're the largest organization on campus. And they're great. They do everything from heading Hispanic Heritage Month. We go down to Atlanta. We have partnerships with Galeo, which is a Georgia Association of Latino elected officials. They do internships through them. The Leadership Institute. We also do a lot of community outreach through LASO. Because of LASO, and our president, Brian Nunez, who I met when they came down, they get a lot of food donated from the local bakeries. The students have done a great job securing donations from local Latino businesses on campus and in the community to bring back to campus. Next year for the spring, they're looking at starting a year from now of scholarship funding for undocumented students. So we're really happy about that. This program right now that we have is meant for retention. The previous program was called Los Padres Unidos, but we had to change it because of a grant. So if you see two different names on the website, they're pretty much the same program, but we couldn't have the existing program being funded by the grants. We had to change it and tweak it. But we try to serve all Hispanic identifying parents on campus, mostly targeted to those who don't speak English, and those who are first generation college students. We have some parents who come from California, who are Latino or Texas, but they're American, some of them speak Spanish, and so our program just isn't targeted towards them. We would love to have them come, but it's really just to get information out to the community for those who just don't know about it. Latino culture is very family-centered, very oriented, so if you get the family on board, the student's gonna, their ways and avenues towards retention for us, we see is gonna increase. Of all the students who participated in the first year, all but one graduated from the program, so we're really happy about that. Within our community, a lot of our parents didn't understand the importance of skipping work to go to class, especially if your parents and your family rely on your income. If your sister needs braces, you need to go pick up extra shift at the factory or just one of the things. So it's been a lot of negotiating with the parents and getting them to see the bigger picture. Once they get it, they got it. So I'll invite you all to come down, see the campus, see our programs in action. We're really proud of them. We have a lot of support from our administration. My vice president, who's my boss, my direct boss, she actually petitioned for my position to be created. And so it's funded by the Board of Regents. And so they have a targeted commitment, an intentional commitment to our Latino students on campus. Right now, we're experiencing a little hesitation from our students with the political climate going on. And so we have a lot of students now who just don't want to disclose their status anymore. Or today we had 150 students not come to campus. And so, which I don't know how I feel about that one, because I don't know, we had students who serve exams and things like that. So we'll have another program next week to kind of address those issues. But we have to appreciate their sentiments as well and support them as best we can. Since I'm a state employee, there's only so much advocacy I could do on the students, but we do train our students to go and advocate for themselves. We have another student I'd like to bring about. His name is Jaime Rahed, and you can look him up. He just did an interview 2 days ago. He's undocumented, but he works at with the state legislature a lot in Atlanta. He does interviews on NPR. He's featured in the Wall Street Journal. So if you get a chance to Google Jaime, I think you would really enjoy some of his blog posts and all the work he's doing in the state capitol on behalf of undocumented students. He provides a great voice. He was from Mexico, came here, he was 6 months old, and been advocating ever since. Any questions?
Thank you. And if you have further questions, you will be able to ask them when we have our panel at the end of lunch. Now, it's time to eat.
My name is Cristian Patiño. I am the Director of Business Development at La Paz, Chattanooga. I came here because lunch was going to be provided. Honestly, because Latino post-secondary training and workforce development is very important to me. I think workforce development is something that I'm going to be focusing on through La Paz. My previous job was at Southern Adventist University, where I was a counselor and I helped students and families make ends meet, I guess, to be able to have an education. So education was always very, important to me, and I saw how it changed people's lives. I know that with elementary students and first generation students that are going into the school system now, they need support and education more than ever. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm excited to be part of this conversation and discussion.
Welcome, we're glad to have you.
Thank you, Christian. I'm Angelica Riano. My day job is Hamilton County Schools. I'm coordinator for family community involvement and language acquisition programs, so international community involvement, and we started Latino parental involvement. I'm here because I'm a specialist in Latino education, immigrant myself, and if you go to my house, it's United Nations, immigrants, refugees. Whenever they talk in TV, you can talk to me, I have all of them examples. So my heart was sold in Spanish language and culture when I was a little kid, when I learned Spanish and lived in Ukraine, and the rest is the history, that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Julie Legg, and I'm sorry, I was chewing a piece of ice. Let me try that again. I'm Julie Legg, Hamilton County Schools. I'm responsible for the ESOL programs and response to instruction and intervention. Some little overlap there in some cases. So I support teachers who support students for whom English is not the first language. I think my excitement probably about the conversation today is just thinking about ways that we can better support our teachers, because they're frontline, you know, in working with students and families, and just giving them some additional resources and things to think about in how we can keep kids in school and help them see the value of their diploma.
Okay.
I'm Renee Murley, and I am the Director of the School of Education here at UTC. And very similar to what Julie mentioned with her role at Hamilton County, where she works with in-service teachers, I feel like my role is in developing and strengthening and preparing pre-service teachers to go into the field to support those students who may be a part of a culture of individuals in a classroom that may not use English as their first language, or just to address the needs of this community. So that's why I'm here and part of this conversation.
Good, thank you.
I'm Brian Sammy. I'm the Director of Equity and Diversity here at UTC. And I'm here today because in previous capacities at other institutions where I've worked and been associated, I've been chiefly responsible for recruiting multicultural students, supporting them with graduating from colleges and universities, and with particular emphasis on Latino population as well as African American, and formulation of opportunities for ownership in campus life through organizations like the National Association of Latino Fraternal Organizations, or NAFO, if you will. And so I'm very happy to be here and very excited about what I might be able to offer.
Good, thank you, welcome, and thank you for all for coming. Okay, now the next the way we do this is take the first question. The first question: what barriers at the K-12 and post-secondary levels limit student access and success? Now, it doesn't say here, but since the topic we're addressing is Latino post-secondary and training and workforce development, we would appreciate the focus being on that population, although it may not, in some cases, be any different. But let's make sure that the focus remains there. Okay, start with you.
What our table discussed, we identified several things that limit access and success. One of the first being language. If English is not your first language, that automatically is going to limit the trust that you develop with administrators, teachers, the way you communicate with them, how engaged you're going to be in your student's life. So that was the first thing from the parents' point of view. And also language from the student point of view. So if the student is also an English learner, there's going to be some difficulties, trying to learn the subject matter in the classes, and therefore succeed and be successful at the end. I think something that we also talked about was parental engagement, and how can we improve the engagement that parents have in these schools, either by having, like what Quincy was saying about Amigo Unida, it's great, because that's really how you're educating. You're first of all creating a consistent way to communicate with your families, and it's really topics that they are going to benefit from and need. So the agenda is being put on by them. So looking at creating something like that with each school to be able to provide that open door policy with the bilingual staff that can help build that trust and I guess educate the families. Resources was something else that we mentioned, money. And then another one that we kind of touched on was the ELL program, and that a lot more, I guess, resources should be placed on ELL programs that currently may not be placed on them very much, so if you may want to touch on that a little bit. It can be, due to the teachers being burdened, that they will just, have students, ELL students, more of a study hall session instead of trying to help them learn English, and therefore get placed back in normal classrooms. So if we devote more resources to the ELL programs here in Chattanooga, I think that is automatically going to help the students, acquire the language they need, and then be able to, increase their success. Any other thoughts or comments from my team?
Good job.
I did say was about and that's because I took poor notes. I was the note taker and I'm really bad at it. So was that part of it is there aren't enough Spanish speakers on the teaching side. So we've got all these ELL students, but there are not enough people who are bilingual, both in the K through 12 space and in the post-secondary space.
Good.
Sorry, Christian.
I completely agree with Christian. I want to say, man, as a foreigner, I tell you, if you don't speak English, you're done. Cleaning houses or something like that the rest of your life. So that's number one priority. When we look at barriers K through 12, there's a lot of barriers, depends where you're chunking. What our table concentrated, you correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about Chattanooga. Because Chattanooga first, right, making HCD great again. So we focus on Chattanooga. In Chattanooga, let's talk about secondary. Majority of our secondary students come from very limited formal education, and this has been a major barrier to close that gap. And it doesn't need to be work just of the SOL teachers. When they come here, we feel like we don't have enough resources to provide that quality closing gap education that makes them successful. And looking philosophical on a scale, there's a lack of vision for parents, because when parents come here, we don't get Prince William coming here. We have people who really coming here for a better life. And a lot of times they live in that generational poverty. They don't have enough vision without additional support to help them. And later, second question, I will tell you what steps we're taking. But summarizing that, two things we identified, it's a lack of that vision for the future generation from parents, and a lack of quality programs that will get them successful, get them the diploma or whichever document they need to have to go to college.
Good, thank you.
Anything else from?
Your point about where, again, as a 16-year-old, if I only have second grade.
Yeah, that's what I meant, because we do have cases, and Miss Light knows because she enrolls them every day. We get 16, 17-year-olds with second, third grade of education. And what we tell in community, American education worth nothing, we can just put them in a classroom, they succeed. No, it's a hardcore classes. That means how you going to close that gap? And this is need to be city conversation. What we can do, maybe not in K-12 setting, maybe it needs to be outside, something that Chattanooga State, when we can give the people dignity and skills and English and intensive, because to me it's like you're in intensive care. Those people need intensive care style of education to get them on the path.
Thank you.
So, our conversation really started, and there was a theme kind of with all three of these questions, but financial concerns were, right there at the top of the list, and just thinking about, you spoke to that, is the burden that students are under if they're accepted into, post-secondary, so then what? I mean, I've got to figure out a way to make ends meet and to survive, and that's daunting for anyone. I mean, my son is a freshman this year, so I can speak from experience. It's not cheap. I mean, we have some scholarship money, it's still not cheap. And so that's daunting, to think about that. And I think another really big concern is the amount of kind of misinformation. People don't know what they don't know. And, the community at large needs to,
needs to have an opportunity for accurate information to be provided to them. And I think, it's people like who are in this room today, it's our responsibility, I think, to do that, to make sure that we make people aware of these circumstances, because very few, I would be surprised if just the average Chattanoogan realized that students that are undocumented had to pay out-of-state tuition. And if they do realize that, I would be shocked if they understood what that really means, what that really looks like. So I think providing accurate information would help to overcome some of that.
Great, thank you.
We talked a lot about some of the same things, but in our minds, we separated them, K-12 and then secondary. And some of the issues that we talked about with K-12 was the standpoint of just a lack of understanding of different cultural differences. I think we use the term ignorant policymakers. Could be an issue, because what happens oftentimes in K through 12, they are provided a free education, and then they make it into the secondary world, and there are limitations because of their status. And we obviously talked about language barriers, cultural barriers, and then just a culture of acceptance that sometimes children are picked on or bullied or may have issues with their peers just because of their differences, and do they know how to solve and resolve those issues, and working with their teachers. And then my perspective is the training of educators, making sure that all new teachers and all teachers in the classroom are trained to support our students in our K-12 setting. And then for our secondary, it is those opportunities dealing with tuition and financial support for those individuals who want to be educated and choose that route.
Good.
Every one of the topics that we kind of discussed at our table have already been covered.
That's
That's
fair.
the benefit of sitting at that end.
That's right, that's right. We did talk about each and every one of those, and I want to add a couple of statements real briefly about the importance of policies and processes and procedures and how those 3 Ps impact people's ability. And I know our topic here today is one particular demographic, but if you don't understand how policies and procedures and processes that you utilize impact people in different populations, it's really easy to end up in a place where you don't get what you say you would like to have, and that is more students in this particular demographic attending your institution or being successful when they do come. So I think policies, practices, and procedures are really, really critical to ensuring that students have every opportunity to be successful when they do make it through K through 12.
Well, thank you. Now, I can't resist asking the panel a question relative to this bigger question. And I didn't hear anyone address an issue that I think may be, from an international perspective as well as an educational psychological perspective, the biggest barrier of all. And that's the age at which we teach language.
We talked about that.
You did talk about that. Well, good. Somebody did.
Which now is my bad, because I took that.
I have worked as a consultant in countries. I'll give an example, Norway, where the average student starts preschool learning at least 3 languages. And by the time they get to K-12, through K-12, they're proficient in those languages, and they don't need a lot of the additional kinds of things that we're calling barriers, because they don't exist, because they know the language well enough. Now, so my question to you is, we started teaching second language in high school, which as an educational psychologist, brain-based learning, etc., says is the very worst time to start in an educational life. You should start at preschool. Why did we do that, and do we think about that? Yeah.
Yes, of course. I think we need different topic for that, because with the passion we have, it's mostly talking about American kids, I am linguist, language acquisition specialist, speak fluently 5. English is my last language, that's why you hear wrinkle Georgia accent. I can get by with another 4 languages, and you preach it to the choir. We're going against brain development, because when you're young, it comes natural approach
Yes.
comes. You don't need to worry about that. Traveling in Germany, we were lost. We asked 7-year-old for directions in my broken English at the time, and we got full answer. This is another topic to have another panel, which is really, but if you want to link it to our bilingual education, I was strongly believe that we initiated extended learning after school programs and the summer programs. I believe if Spanish for Spanish speakers, and I believe for Spanish for regular American kids, and we're doing in Hamilton County. I need more support to unravel, but that's what we do, and currently you can stop at several schools and see how it's done. When Latino children come to us, it's easy to say what they don't have, because we know what they don't have. But how about concentrating what they already have? They have the tongue, they have the language at home, and initiating something like Translators Academy, like we started in Dalton, I was little part when we were initiating. You can go to Morris Innovative and see how those kids earn $35 per hour translating medical translation. You go to the classroom, you think it's nursing class. So we can do something like that related to, you said, 2 languages, because they already have that.
Yes.
And I prefer to keep that, to give them sense of dignity, speaking that language, at least something they're doing really good. And I'm not even going to touch it right now because we have Dr. Leg and other educators who can talk about what it does to the brain, you know. But do another panel, we can talk, because right now.
Okay, we'll put that on the
Yes.
list.
Not from an educational lens, but going back to the policy, you know, we have a very resistant posture about adopting and utilizing other languages in this country for advertising and, you know, educational purposes and processes. You know, you think about Title VI and other federally mandated policies across the country. It's English. You're going to speak English in the United States, and if you come here and speak the language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, many of us have all heard or seen these kind of comments being made by other in society. And to get to your point or your question, we have been historically unwilling to say to a kindergartner, a pre-K, first grader, learn something other than English. We just simply have not done that, and are probably, in my best estimation, are unwilling to do it.
Well, it comes with policy. You know how it's set with languages. When it comes to ESL, we teach everybody. Anybody can come, and we teach them English, and they're doing well. When it comes to foreign languages, curriculum complete, we don't teach foreign language the way we teach ESL. Foreign language taught just to be tourist in foreign country. It comes with policy, you come exactly right. If we can find our way to Betsy DeVos and want her to shine, we can help her. If she can work on that issue. At least we need to change. We need to teach foreign language the same we teach ESL, that starts with literacy. It's not done.
Okay.
I think it's a blessing and a curse because the U.S. has been a superpower for a long time. And when you go abroad, if you're from Germany and Indonesia, you communicate generally in English. So that's a blessing because everybody will understand it. The curse comes that because everybody speaks it, there's not a need, there's not a perceived need to learn another language, whether it's Spanish or Mandarin or German or French. And I think that's where the European school system is way ahead of us because they, are in such smaller space and they speak so many different languages that it's part of the education system. I went to school in Curacao, and in elementary, you're already taught 4 languages from first grade, second grade on to, we finish high school. So it's part of our culture, and I think, as we're having more international people settle here in the U.S., that's something that we want to consider. And I also think that it's viewed as a privilege to learn a different language. So, you have private tutors, you have, it's not part of the public education system, but I think if you could add it early on, not only does it help with brain development and the acquisition of different languages and learning better, but it also makes Americans, have a more competitive advantage when playing abroad.
Yep. And we're gonna need that.
If I could say one more thing, I agree with everything you just said, but I simultaneously think it puts us at a disadvantage, simply because, you know, we're a global world now, right? I mean, there was a time when we lived by the agronomy culture, and you planted and harvest at certain times, and all these other different kind of things. Well, the world has changed so much. People are traveling abroad, people are interacting and engaging with others through so many different modalities and things of that nature, to where it just really isn't good, in my professional opinion, for us to not think about all the different languages that are spoken at a high school, for example, right? 40, 50 languages in some high schools, especially in a city like this where we got an international player like Volkswagen, and all the people who come from all over the world to work and send their kids to schools here in Hamilton County. I think that's not good for us. We should have our students from the very first learning everything that they can to be as competitively and able to meaningfully engage anyone from any part of the country or any part of the world, for that matter.
So maybe that's a topic for another.
Let's do another one. I was
I have a
gonna say,
question.
so in terms of topic for another learning lunch, because I think it's all tied together, it's about curriculum, right? I mean, so you could talk about like that, part of it is our focus on reading and writing for K through 12 in the assessment-based culture, that reading and math is what matters. So I think that's tied to why we don't teach. So I think that could be the topic. And
Not only is it
back
tied
to the next one.
Yes, not only is it tied to what we're teaching, but it's also tied to why maybe those countries who do that are ahead of us on the world measurement of achievement. So, yes.
I have a question, kind of supplemental what you said about early language education. I think that part of the problem also is that we have no efforts really to incorporate the parents into our education system. And so when those kids go home that are learning another language, if the parents don't know that, not only can they not support their homework completion, but they also grow further from their own home culture. Does that make sense? And so what kind of programs, do you guys see any sort of efforts to incorporate that into your system?
There's
Actually, that gets us to question number 2. So I'm defeating my own purpose here by allowing this to go on.
Touch putting languages.
And I've got 20 minutes left, so let's take that question as a basis for what models of good practice or partnership opportunities support access and success for students, and start right there.
Dr. Marcelo Suarez Orozco from the Harvard Immigration Project did a study exactly to the tone of what you're describing around learning a new land, where students specifically have to, they got to master English during school hours, and then they got to come home and speak Spanish, and then there's this gap between what the school demands and what they practice at home and with their peers and things of that nature. So that's exactly right. One of the things that we talked about in our group about good models and practices and opportunities for improving success of Latino students is, how do you precondition these institutions to be successful? In my previous experience, which I refer to a lot, when I was the coordinator of multicultural recruitment, we had a goal of increasing the representation of Hispanic and Latino students on our campus for subscribing to this HSI designation that Quincy talked about earlier. But we had absolutely no readiness, no preparedness for engaging and working with students or their parents or any of their family members once we got them on campus. No one spoke another language. There were no brochures or literature or anything else in Spanish or any other language that could be utilized. So we have to really plan for what we're subscribing to and what we want to achieve, and that means getting the house ready, getting things in order to where when we do start to make some inroads toward accomplishing those goals, we're ready to receive those individuals and support those individuals in ways that they need it.
Thank you.
What we talked about at our table was just the importance of the leadership, especially in institutions of higher education, to focus on this area. And I think that's, at least for us at UTC, is something that we are concentrating on and thinking about, is how does that leadership at this level of a university play into the focus of and the importance of that. And so we also talked about Dalton State's commitment and how they hired him to be able to be that leader on campus, to make sure everything, he's the person that gets up every morning thinking about his job. And when you have that one person focusing on that all day long, every day, then that's when we see that impact. But that's how the leadership, also contributes to that. And then lastly, one thing I shared that we are working toward here at UTC is a dual certification, so that we license K-5 elementary teachers, not only to be able to teach K-5, but also to have a certification in ELL, to be able to be better prepared to work with those students. So we are moving in that direction if all the things fall into place.
Good, thank you. Julie?
So our group talked about the idea of being prepared and kind of campus school readiness for this population and their families. And so I won't talk about that, but I will talk about just kind of building on what we touched on with that first question. We talked about one model would be to build awareness in the community, again, with accurate information, making sure, and I deal with some of the most passionate educators you could ever ask for. I mean, these people are advocates right to their core. And often I've had many conversations, many tear-filled conversations where people, they are heard and they're frustrated by comments that they hear people make, things that they see on the media, this kind of thing. And I always encourage them and say, you know what, anytime those circumstances happen, it provides you with an opportunity. And that if we wanted things to get better, then we have to use those inroads to say, you know what, it may seem that way, but let me tell you how it really is. And to use their personal experience with students and their families to enlighten people. And I think as a community, we have to work towards that, because that's gonna be what propels these conversations in making adjustments to the core curriculum and adjusting kind of funding sources and the direction of that funding and those kind of things is so that the community has a really clear understanding of the current circumstances.
You're suggesting that the community has a major role in the solution.
I believe so. I believe so. The partnership that is alluded to in that question would be that we have to work in tandem with businesses and university and I mean we can't all be in the silos. We got to.
Right, but sometimes those policies and procedures don't involve the community as much as they do the administration.
They never do. More often than not, they don't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, question was talking about models of good practice, and we do have good models already in Chattanooga. Of course, we need to work on that. Let me just recognize La Paz. Working with them for several years, I don't know different advocates, like larger advocates than La Paz educating, exactly what Julie was saying, collaborating and calling and doing presentations, from cultural perspective, educating community. I think this is something great we have. Our business community, with International Business Council, being involved with that, several years ago, we had whole target was education. So we have several models that will work. Of course, misconceptions, that's where all troubles start. But also going from that to real things. La Paz started family support initiatives, and we worked with them on interpreters. Brilliant idea. I sent all my volunteers to them. They plug in, it's public documents, so schools are covered. I think this is something state can even model from what you guys doing. Now Hamilton County give an opportunity to restructure Family Resource Center. I want to introduce Pablo Mazariegos, our new director, or family resource center, professional counselor, will be concentrating, dealing with the needs one-on-one. So I think this is already good things, what we discuss on our table. Specific graduation coaches, and you can tell me in Dalton, I came from Dalton, my previous experience, they had bilingual graduation coaches. To me, translation and plain English, I grab your hand and your parent's hand and I will drag you to that college. So somebody who is really explaining how the system works, how American education works. We have great education coaches, graduation coaches in Hamilton County, but I think if talking about what can be done, that one, FACE community, well, Pablo also is the president of Association of Pastors and consults them. So FACE community, huge in Latino community. And having through Family Resource Center, I'm here also, can I use this platform to ask for support? We do need support, that's all we can do. I hope he can organize army of bilingual counselors and people who can help, like Ms. Legg, Dr. Legg mentioned. She's there every day supporting teachers. This is support for teachers. Yesterday he walked in a room in a school and he helped 9 children. So several initiatives we have, Family Resource Center, La Paz as a great advocate, our FACE community, we need to bring them more. And this is just few that already work, and International Business Council, Chamber of Commerce, heavily involved with that. So another thing we were mentioning, UTC, great job on training teachers. It really applauds to you for training, given double certification. Being foreigner myself, I will be still cleaning houses. It will not be somebody teaching me. So we talk at our table, also giving them more perspective, more hands-on activity. When we talk about ESOL students, we talk about everybody. How about training them just for Hamilton County? Let them have a partnership. Go follow Pablo when he meets that family who's falling apart. Before you teach that family, you need to do what he's done yesterday. He put food on somebody's table, he put clothes on somebody's, and he organized whole system for the church to support a group of parents. And if your students can come and follow that, then they will decide. First of all, we have to be honest. Is this what I want to do? Or maybe I switch to international business because I love Spanish. Well, we have to be honest. Because the opposite with me, I graduate with international business, but this is what I want to do. You know, it's first of all being honest, because we have a lot of disillusioned teachers. We hire them, they come to the classroom, they're like, I don't know what to do. So if we train them, and we're willing to work with you, with all we have, I'm pretty sure La Paz is willing to work and coordinate, to give them real life experience, real in Chattanooga, not hypothetical. French student came and doesn't speak. They don't have very many French. So that's what we discuss on our tables. You have to stop me here because we talk more. Christians waiting.
I think you guys, everybody covered great things. On the last question, I think our table kind of merged 2 and 3 together, and if we didn't, then I'm just kind of merging myself now. But I think what Julie touched on is this is a community effort, not just a community as individuals, but let me rephrase that. There are different stakeholders here. It's not just the institutions, it's not just the nonprofits, the Department of Education and businesses. I mean, so it's obviously gonna take open lines of communication to be able to help students succeed, any student succeed, and know what their opportunities are. La Paz, we focus on supporting, being a support system for parents. So we would keep on doing that. We're not gonna, try to do tutoring because that's not our skill set, nor is that our area of focus. We would rather partner with somebody else who does that, but identifying that partner that we can bring along to our sessions, or that we can bring anybody from UTC to our parental engagement nights. What we have been doing is recently having information sessions for the community to ensure that there are safe spaces here and other communities here to help them succeed. And so we had a session where we brought Angelica from the Department of Education to talk to about 100 families that the education system is here to provide an education for you guys. It's not here to deport you or whatnot. We had the police department come and say, we are here to provide for the safety of our residents, not to be immigration officers. And so it's bringing different stakeholders at different points or events so that we can create a more effective pipeline, I guess, to help them, once they finish one step, they can move to the next one where somebody else that does that line of work already can take on. I mean, we can be a support system as well, but I think being intentional about that. For example, we were talking about focus groups. The community is always, the people that need the help, they're gonna be the experts in knowing what they need best and what type of assistance they need best. So it's not fair for us, La Paz, to create a education program and we say, this is what you need. So we are very intentional in, I guess you see appreciative inquiry to create programs that the community needs. So by having focus group in schools, we're gonna be able, the institution's gonna be able to determine, okay, this is what students need to succeed. We will do the same with parents. This is what parents need to succeed. And so everybody can then come together and say, okay, this is what we have identified, different parts of the family need. How can we, be a resource and support to them? So that's kind of what we talked about. It's kind of being very intentional with the interactions we have. And I think a good model that La Paz and the Department of Education has been doing is the registration that we do. I mean, we had 43 volunteers. We were at 13 different schools. We have been meeting with other nonprofits to work on the registration form so that it's streamlined, so that when one, what's in English, it's also the same in Spanish. And so it's creating that training and being very intentional with our partners to say, okay, whenever we're going to be doing this event, nobody's paying us to do this. We're doing it because the community needs it and because we recognize that we can serve and help our students and our parents register their kids. So it's like trying to be intentional, I guess, with each interaction that we're having and invite people that we think are going to be strategic in leveraging our resources, our time, and our impact.
And channeling it together, because we're working for the same kids. There's no need for him to start that and for me to start volunteers. Also, I forgot to mention, really important, collaboration between Chattanooga Times Free Press, Chamber of Commerce, and Department of Education. It's a weekly page, a Spanish newspaper. It's a Times Free Press, but it's Spanish edition. I run the paper and I run the page, I oversee it, but we notify anything goes with La Paz. This is the way we inform community. We go into La Buena, we go into radio, and we talk. So anything is happening, we informing them. And I think Chattanooga is the only, I think nationally we do that. Dalton actually contacted in several articles I wrote for us, they printed in La Voz right there. So there's something good happening in Chattanooga, and if there's any initiatives you want to communicate to community, we're willing to discuss and maybe publish on that page. The page when our superintendent came out right after election, and he addressed whole community. That paper goes to every child's home. We receive a 10 ESOL sites, teachers give it to kids when they go home. So any collaboration, anything we need to do, we have the support. Not every city has that, we do. So to me, it's collaborating and not repeating what we're doing. If we're working with parents, we're doing this, you do something else. And at the end of the day, it's the same Juanito and his parents.
It's obvious that we are addressing question 3 and have been for quite some time. So the fact that we only have 3 or 4 minutes left doesn't mean we didn't get to question 3, because actually we've been addressing question 3 from the first one. And because you can't address the question without addressing potential solutions. So I really appreciate it. Now what's going to happen is anybody has any final statement or comment they want to make before the last, so there's 2 hands. So we'll start with you.
I'd like to make one quick comment about question 3 and how do we look at these challenges and identify ways for dealing with them. And one of the things that came to mind during our conversation at my table was there's something called the loaded cost, a concept called loaded cost. What does something really cost you beyond what you can reasonably see and put your hand on? There are those intangible costs, right? And the statement I made for the consideration of my peers at the table was that we have to approach this holistically and really understand the loaded costs. When you think about the benefits for education to the city, to the state, the region, the country, or what have you, there are 3 states, Colorado, Minnesota, and Maryland, that lead the nation and returns on investment and what have you in 3 very important clusters: civic engagement, adult literacy, and economic impact. Okay? There are fewer people that commit crimes. There are fewer people that, more people are engaged in voting and all these other civic duties and responsibilities, and people make more money when you have higher levels of persons with at least an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, or some type of education. And that's how this city and other cities in this state and other states have to think about education, and specifically with this particular demographic, or as well as other demographics.
Thank you.
You guys are probably familiar with is it John McHaney, the horrible actor's name, McHaney. A Time to Kill. Y'all see that movie? That's not one. So Denzel Washington, is it Jackson?
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel. God, I'm so sorry. I didn't think aloud because I'm nervous. I'm talking to everybody. it's a combination of feeling. So there's a scene, right? He's at the jail and he's telling him, man, I've done everything I could for you. You just got to plead guilty, and then hopefully you'll at least survive and just do X amount of years, right? So the movie is addressing the social injustice of these children were raped. And but so they've come down to, and this is not just a movie, this is an event that actually happened, right? So the white man is just tired. Physically, you can tell he's worn out. He's like, man, you just gotta take it. He's like, what? No. What are you talking about? This is your calling. This is why you're here. You can't give up on me. You gotta embrace your calling. And in many ways. And he's like, no, but I can't. I've done everything. I got white people against me. I got judges. I got government. Everyone's against me. It's like, you gotta do this, man. You gotta do this, right? And he goes. About to do the thing that every attorney has to do, right? And what is that? They have to convince the jury. And do y'all remember that scene? Okay, you remember. This is the moment, like the whole movie comes down to this summit moment, right?
Close your eyes.
Whew. And then what he says after that?
Imagine that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Close your eyes, and let me tell you a story. To tell them so poetically, so humanly, in a context that everyone could relate to. He's like, I want you to picture this little girl. And I want you to picture all these people that come and take her. They molest her. They ruin every sort of chance for her to ever have children again. And everyone's like, oh, But he tells them that, and at the end he tells them,
imagine she's white.
So I've taken my passion, I've somehow come to terms to it consciously, and that's through a lot of my friends here, Paz, Angelica, placed services around me, and encouraged me, because really I must say I struggle. Even though I've been in the States for 25 years, somewhere underneath me I know there's a sense that I don't fit in. There's certain things that I don't have the rights to, and I hate it. As much as people preach it to me, as much as people want to tell me that I shouldn't, I can't. It's so hard for me. But so I've had people that kind of encouraged me. Gladys was the one person that encouraged me for this one incident, because one of my things is when I look at the Latino community, I see beautiful, bright women, Latina women. And I go to different things, I see Latino women, and I just see Latina women, and I'm just like, these are the brewing, these ladies are just brewing, making things happen. So I've taken it that, I want to make a story, I want to make a documentary highlighting the Latina women resilience in Chattanooga. And so one of the people that I'm going to be interviewing is a student. And so the mission of this whole project is going to be to bridge the Latina and American human experience around stories that eventually make an entry point and contribute to the culture of Chattanooga. And this, I probably didn't get it right. Christian is in this class with me and co-stars. I've been working on just trying to memorize my missions there. So you let me know if I did it right. You're my witness. And so, you know, those relationships are really benefiting me because they allow me to kind of, you know, find a place. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to be interviewing two Latino women who represent the outsides of the Chattanooga. And one of them is a student. And it's pretty much a counseling session recorded on film. And if you guys are passionate about it, let me know if you want to jump on board. Just going through the Arts Bill grant is going to be promoting arts between Latino and African American community. But I think if you want to take an action plan, if you want to join, come on in. Our hope is to have this documentary before the end of the year, and really use it to draw community dialogue, and really advocate for education, because that's what I'm seeing here. Is if we're going to change these things around, we need to do what he did. Close your eyes and let me tell you a story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And with that, time's up, and I can't think of a better way to end this discussion. Now, your last assignment, and there's a piece of paper you're supposed to have, and Christina will give it to you. There are two things you need to write on here as your ticket out. One is, what's the most important thing I learned at lunch today? And two, what question do I leave here still without an answer to? And then you can stick around and talk, or you can leave. That's your choice. Thank you so much for being here today and for participating in what has been one of the most deeply affective conversations we've had at a lunch.